My first review of an APU, and the fact that that rhymes means that it's destined. If you don't know what APU means, it stands for Accelerated Processing Unit, and today we're going to be looking at the 8600G from AMD, which is this guy over here. Now, I like to give a little bit of education on the channel, especially when we do something, call it new. And if you don't know what an APU is, it basically means that it takes a CPU and a GPU and puts it into one, meaning that singular chip is an APU, Accelerated Processing Unit. Now, the argument can be made that in fact, many CPUs can already be considered to be called APUs. And the reason is, if we look at Intel, they have Iris graphics on many of their CPUs. And if we look specifically at the 13900K, that has UHD 770 graphics on it. So why is that not an APU? Also, the 7600X from AMD, that is a CPU or classified as a CPU, but it does have Radeon graphics, meaning that if you put the CPU into a motherboard, you can literally put an HDMI or DP, depending on the output of the motherboard, and get display. So why does AMD classify that as a CPU and not an APU? And there are two reasons for this. Firstly, APU is a term that was coined by AMD a while ago. It does not own the terminology, or it does not own the rights to call something an APU exclusively. It's just that Intel doesn't use this terminology. Secondly, and this does involve a lot of my opinion, is it's got to do with intent and ability. Let's look at two CPU APU combinations, the 7600X and the 8600G. AMD classifies the 7600X as a CPU, but it classifies the 8600G as an APU. Why? If we look at the 7600X, it has 2 cores and it has a very vanilla graphic naming convention in Radeon graphics. Versus if we look at the 8600G, it has 8 cores, but it has a very specific name in the 760M graphics or Radeon graphics from AMD, meaning that AMD intends for this to be used as a CPU-GPU combination rather than the 7600X, where it's basically relying on you to get a graphics unit in order to game and so on. Now let's move on to the star of the show today, the 8600G. Now I want to let you know how I tested this. I tested this like an APU, a CPU-GPU combination, meaning that in all of my tests, I did not bring a dedicated graphics card to bear. I wanted to test this how AMD intended, or how I believe AMD intended it to be used. So with that, let's go on to the specifications first.
Looking at the general specs of the 8600G, it is a 6-core 12-thread processor that has a base of 4.3 and clocks up to 5. It has an L2 cache of 6 and an L3 cache of 16 with a TDP of 65 watts. I will note this when we go into the actual testing results, that there is no sort of TGP results. It's all reported under 1 TDP, and it actually achieves over that. But anyway, the technology for the CPU cores is a 4 nanometer, so the best that AMD currently has to offer. It has 1 die. You can overclock on the CPU with Precision Boost Overdrive. You do have Expo overclocking, and you do have Ryzen Master support. The CPU socket is AM5 because that's what it is currently. You can use curve optimizer voltage offset. And lastly, the max operating temperature, or TJ max, is 95 degrees. Starting off with the results, we need to see what we were working with. So obviously the CPU was the 8600G. For the motherboard, we inserted it into the ASRock X670E Taichi Carrara. The RAM was the Giel Polaris DDR5 32GB at 5600 MHz. The SSD was a Crucial P5 Plus 1 TB. The power supply was the Cooler Master Masterwatt Maker 1200 watt. The GPU was none because I was testing this as a standalone. The cooler at this stage was still the Cooler Master Master Liquid PL360 Flux, and the case was the Cooler Master Masterframe 700. First up to bat, we got Cinebench R23. Now, not to get confused, we've got the multi-core performance setting for the CPU and gaming setting. So when I talk about multi-core performance, I'm talking about the setting, unless I'm talking about the actual first up, which is multi-core performance. So we've got multi-core performance inside multi-core performance, which scored 13219. Now the gaming setting scored a little bit higher at 13466. Now we see how that does comparatively next to the other results of the 5800X3D, the 7600X, and the 7800X3D. But not too bad on multi-core performance, but surprisingly the gaming profile coming out on top. Single core performance faring a little bit better, with the multi-core performance scoring 1764 and gaming just above that at 1765. So this outdoes the single core performance of the 5800X3D and is just below the 7800X3D, but a little bit below the 7600X at 1976. So not too bad on single core frequency coming out of this, but well below the 7600X. Moving on to Cinebench R24 multi-core performance, we saw that gaming actually did a little bit worse than the multi-core setting, so this is starting to make sense when looking at Cinebench R24. Moving on to single core performance, it did mirror R23 again, in where it performed better than the 5800X3D, but the 7600X standing at 115 makes the gaming single core frequency of 106 look a little less worse than it did in R23, so not bad results again coming out of Cinebench R24. Moving on to Blender, surprising score of 174 when comparing it to the 139 of the 5800X3D. The surprise because it has 6 cores versus the 5800X3D having 8 cores. But then we do see better performance coming out of the 8-core 7800X3D at 267. And then obviously it towers on with the 7900X3D at 408. We have the 13900K and KF at 515 and 520 respectively. And then the massive result of the 7950X3D of 557. So again, not a bad result considering the entry levelness of the CPU. Geekbench reporting a little bit different on multi-core performance than what we saw from Cinebench R23 and R24, where the performance was basically mirrored across the multi-core and gaming settings. So if you need to know, 11636 on multi, and on the gaming profile 11777, and then we start to see the results go up from the 7879 and 7950X3D. Single core performance does outdo the 5800X3D with the gaming profile on 2515 and the multi score on 2530, so slight variance there and in the realm of negligible error. So I'm not really seeing from this a massive result or massive reason to choose multi over gaming. It's literally just going to be up to what you feel or what you see the better results are going to be when we actually get to the gaming score, but good score there above the 5800X3D of 2104. Moving on to some benchmarks, and we start off with 3D Mark. A little bit confusing, and I'll explain why. The 8600G has 12 threads and the 7800X3D has 16. Now, if we look at the max thread for the 8600G, it was 5431. Now it has 12.
Wait, what are my values?
Now, if we look at the 16 thread performance, it has 6213, which should actually be the same as the max thread. It is that for the 7800X3D, which is 7835. But if we go to 8 thread, that's where we see a first real difference at 5173 versus 6566. But then as it goes down, the thread performance seems to become the same until we get to 1 thread where the 8600G actually outperforms the 7800X3D in 993 to 940. But I don't really like this test. I like to have it here as a comparative because CPUs nowadays have a lot more threads than 16. And I don't know if this test is really that up to date. I will check in with 3D Mark. That's if they answer me, in order to see if they are going to be updating this test and to bring in more variants and threads. But again, don't take this at face value. Moving on to time spy, and we can see that we have the 8600G comparatively with the 7800X3D with a 7900XT. Not a very fair comparison at all, but I didn't have something like a 5600X or a 7600X to pair with something like a RX 580 to actually show what the difference would be. But we do get some scope, and I will have more scope as time goes by and we test more APUs. I'm not going to go into the data. As we can see, the actual GPU CPU combination skied over the 8600G. It's going to be more important when we get to game test results. Moving on to other tests, it's the same in Speedway and Port Royale. Moving on to gaming results, and we have the comparative data with the 4070 Ti Super and the 7800 XT. Now, it's actually very interesting in the fact that we had 2160 that actually loaded, even though the average FPS and 99th percentile were very low. But starting off with 1080, we had an average of 13 and a 99 of 9. For 1440, 8 and 6, and for 2160, 6 and 4. So just noting from this, we are definitely not going to be able to play AAA titles in 1080p, let alone 4K. Moving on to Total War Warhammer, we had average of 27 and a 99th percentile of 20 on 1440, 1712, and in 4K 86. So maybe barely playable on Total War Warhammer 3 with 27 versus 20. Now, noting that all these games were set to ultra settings because I have to make benchmarks equal against each other, I don't think that it did too badly in Formula 1 2021 and ultra, because if we look at 1080p, it actually scored 34 on average and 27 on 99th percentile. Then we obviously taper down at 2418 and 12.8, which is completely unplayable, but on 1080 it was almost playable. Moving on to Far Cry 6, the stalwart for AMD, where AMD really does well. We had a surprising result considering, again, it's an ultra of a average FPS of 38 in 1080p, with 28 being the 99th percentile. So if you tweak with the settings, you should be able to get around 60 frames per second, which is playable for Far Cry 6. Obviously not optimal unless you're used to playing in 60 frames per second, but not too bad there. Moving on to the 1440, we had 25 and 19, and then in 4K 13 and 11. Lastly, we have the GPU breaking Talos Principle 2 in ultra settings. The 1080 did 11 and 5, the 1440 did 7 and 3, and I was honestly surprised that it even loaded 4K at 3 and 2. Moving on to the statistics. Now note that when reporting temperatures, the CPU and the GPU of the APU are reported differently. So I will read the maxes or give you the maxes of the CPU element and the GPU element. So note that when I say CPU, I mean the CPU in the APU. But for Cinebench R23, we hit a max of 83 for the CPU element and 42 for the GPU element. For R24, it was 80 and 44. For Ada 64 CPU and FPU stress, it was 81 to 42. Blender was 71 to 43. 3D Mark CPU was 72 to 40. 3D Mark TimeSpy was 65 to 50. 3D Mark TimeSpy Extreme was 70 to 48. So actually really good temperatures coming out of this APU for both the CPU and the GPU elements. But the one thing that I did note that was odd is that TimeSpy Extreme tests in a higher resolution, and the actual GPU was cooler in the higher resolution, which was a little bit weird, and the CPU didn't actually compensate. So something that is just noted, but I don't think it requires massive investigation because we're not going to be trying to push the CPU to be playing 4K or the GPU element of that for that matter. Onto Power Draw Max, and something not to get confused because we have CPU package, which can be called the APU package, and then we have something called GPU ASIC. Now, when looking at this, it's not the combination of power draw, it is the higher of the two. It's not pulling 79 plus 78. If we look at R23, it's actually pulling 79. It's just different reporting levels. The only reason I included it here was because of the last result, which was a little bit confusing, but we'll get there. On the Cinebench R23, as mentioned, it's 79, 78. On R24, it's 83, 81. For Ada, it's 81, 80. For Blender, it's 72, 71. For 3D Mark CPU, 68 mirrored. For 3D Mark TimeSpy, it is 70 mirrored. And then the odd result of 3D Mark TimeSpy Extreme, 83 on package and then 86 on GPU ASIC. Now, the odd thing for this is both that the GPU ASIC is pulling a little bit more, saying that no, the GPU is pulling more than the CPU, which is theoretically impossible because it's being pulled off of the same silicon. But the really odd thing here is that this was the highest that it pulled on both sides, but the temperatures aren't reflected if you mirror back to what the temperatures were, because it was 78 on the CPU and 48 on the GPU for the 3D Mark TimeSpy Extreme. So this noting that even though the CPU is pulling more watts, it's not reflected in temperature, meaning that there's either a reporting error, which I need to check into, or it's just that efficient with that program. So we are looking at very, very good pulls on wattage for the CPU considering the output, so very efficient on the silicone here. Last note on the Power Draw Max is that the TDP is 65 watts as we learned before, but this pushing obviously over in all cases. Also noting that on AMD's website, they don't give any TDP type TGP derivatives. It's all reported under TDP. Last but not least, we got the frequency max for the CPU and GPU, the CPU being global. Now the CPU does go up to 5,000, but we hit slightly over that on most tests of 5049 as we noted in 3D Mark TimeSpy and TimeSpy Extreme. game, as well as other results. For the GPU, it was pretty much static across R23, R24, the Ada and Blender tests, but then when we actually got into, call it a gaming environment, the GPU kicked on and pushed up to 2800. Note that the CPU effective range was around about 4900 on frequency. As an example, look at these two games in Counter-Strike 2 and Force Unleashed 2. This APU is able to play these games in an acceptable frame rate. Sure, it's only around 60 frames in the case of Counter-Strike 2 and a weird locked frame rate in the case of Force Unleashed 2, but the point is you can play games. This makes me even more excited to look at the 8700G with Radeon 780M.
Conclusion, does this do what it's meant to do? And the answer is barely. If this was school, the mark that it would receive would be needs improvement. Now, while my assessment does seem harsh, what I'm trying to emphasize is watch the space. I believe that AMD has flicked a pebble that's going to cause an avalanche, and we're going to see that avalanche in the months and years to come. This is not going to replace traditional builds, at least not right now. But what it is going to do, in my opinion, is open up a whole new market in people that want to get into PC gaming, but either can't afford or want to start slowly, because this 8600G has shown the capability of playing entry-level games, even at acceptable-ish frame rates. But people that want to play old titles and want to start getting into PC games, this is going to be the gateway to get there. So I believe that this is a masterstroke from AMD in order to introduce a whole new thing into the market. The one thing that I might have failed to mention earlier is this can also be used for multi-graphic output if you do want to output through a GPU and a CPU at the same time and have sort of good graphical output, or for even mild editing. But in my totality, in my conclusion as a whole, I think this is a masterstroke from AMD, and I cannot wait for what is to come in the APU space. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed testing this APU. Cheers guys, and goodbye.